What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Arwin, Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello.
Yo. Let's get it going.
Let's get it going.
Hello.
We shall endeavour to do so, Neil. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Negative.
They don't need those. They never actually apply it. They don't need it.
Who's they?
Astrophysicists and astronomers and all that.
Ah, so they're pseudoscientists, in other words.
Well, within their field, you could think of them as pseudoscientists. I mean, they could still do science, but they just don't.
Well, they give you stuff like orbital mechanics and distance extrapolations and calculations. So any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I hear radar can do it.
Well, they're gonna land on it pretty soon, I've heard, from India. We could all trust that, right?
Well,
Makes sense.
They'd have to get the distance to the sun to know how far it's going to be to travel to it. So that being the case, how are they going to measure it, John? Did you say you mentioned something about it a second ago? I vaguely heard.
Yeah, you get your radar and you angle it toward... Sorry, I fed back through somebody. You get your radar, you angle it towards the sun, you shoot your radar, you measure the return signal, and Bob's your uncle. You got a distance.
Indeedy weedy. Now, by popular demand, I've only done a couple of housekeeping questions, which is what we do when we're in the middle of responding to a video. We're going to carry on as we did yesterday with Andrew Gold and Dave Weiss. Now, I didn't do this at the beginning of yesterday's show. For some reason, YouTube have rearranged it so that the comments are above the description now. So I just neglected to do this, but I'm going to do it now straight off the bat. So go and let Andrew Gold know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, so that he is aware that we responded to his debate with David Weiss. So this is on the Andrew Gold YouTube channel. There's a link going by in the live stream chat right now, so that you can, as I say, let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And hopefully he will respond by putting my link into his video, should he make one, and offer up some YouTube love where YouTube themselves do not. So that's the selfish motivation behind doing it. But leave him a comment, drop him a like, let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So let's get back into it. If you want to see what we've got to up to already, check out yesterday's live stream. Go ahead.
You let me get away with the cardinal sin. I claimed radar proves the distance to the sun, and I threw in like an answer they would get why that destroys their argument.
Well, they need a flat plane for it.
Somebody knew
They'll need a flat plane.
For the angle, yeah.
For the angle, yeah. So but you go through it. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. To measure the angle or the return angle or the return signal, you need a plane of reference, and a sphere has no plane of reference.
So you're going to need a flat Earth for that return angle measurement from a plane of reference.
Why do you need a plane of reference?
But hold on, the globe model is already using a flat plane, so that's accounted for, John.
Not really. It's in the middle of it.
To,
Sorry, you said John. My bad.
right. To measure the angle, you need a plane of reference. There is no plane of reference on a sphere
Why?
Because it's spherical.
because it's, yeah.
No, why do you need it to measure it? Why? Why?
But-
Why does it have to be flat?
You guys don't get it. They're already using a flat plane for their globe model, so it's already accounted for.
We get that. Okay, yes. Let's just acknowledge what Arwen's saying so it doesn't keep interrupting with it. Okay, yes. You're talking about the celestial plane, right? Or whatever it's called. Equatorial, my bad. The equatorial plane.
Right.
Okay, fine. Yeah, inside a sphere. But that's not what Neil is responding to John with. He's saying, why do they need a flat plane to do radar? There you go. I phrased it in such a way to leave it open for you to explain it to Neil. Refractive curvature. Go ahead.
Right, because the baseline, the how you'll know what your angle is, how your angle will be defined, must be a straight line as well as that straight line that you're going to draw to whatever object you're shooting your radar at. So 45 degrees above the plane of reference. It has to be a plane of reference. Even in orbital mechanics, it's a plane of reference is how the ground you're standing on is referred to.
So it can't be done on a spherical surface.
No.
I understand.
All roads lead to a flat Earth, Neil. Earth is flat. That's how it's measured. In order to infer a sphere, you're first going to start by measuring the ground that you're actually dealing with. The extrapolations thereafter will infer a sphere, but all roads lead to a flat Earth. The origin will always be a flat plane.
Yeah, I kind of figured because I'm thinking of it trying to get a signal off something that's round like a basketball. It wouldn't work. So
No.
I just need a little
No,
more
no, no.
explaining.
No. The signal that's coming out from the radar, right?
Right.
You're angling that with respect to the horizon, let's just say, so that you can think back on how celestial navigation's done, right? You're establishing a plane of reference when you look at the horizon, and then you're describing an angle that you're measuring the star at. Well, it's the same for radar. It's going to be at an angle.
And that
radar-
can't come off a sphere.
So the radar itself, the way it's described, the mathematics of the returned signal is in respect to the plane of reference.
They're screwed.
Yeah, you need a flat Earth. That's right, Neil. It's not that they're screwed. It's just that the Western world's under the misapprehension through, I don't know if it's political in nature or what. Presumably, as we would disseminate this, is a method of control and nothing more. Therefore, well, what actually controls the whys and wherefores of everyday life? Well, the government controls that, doesn't it? So therefore, in the same way you've got various other sort of government-led movements that aren't in line with science, let's say. Well, let's keep it away from science. Let's say medicine. If you take things like LGBTQ, there's a very severe disconnect between what the political ideology of that movement or group is versus the medical understanding of what defines certain attributes of people. So those two things are very much divided, but you can then categorize it and say, right, well, which one is which? Well, this one, let's not mention which one so I don't get in trouble in case I badly phrase something, is political in nature. Yeah? Therefore, exercising a methodology of controlling you. This one is just reality. And when you transpose that into ball Earth, you go, what's the point? Why are we lied to? Why would they lie? Who's lying? Okay, well, this is a religious idea perpetuated through society through the government control network that we have as our society in inverted commas. Therefore, it's a political idea to believe in the sphere. The actual methodology of measuring Earth as a flat plane has never changed. It's always been the same. But this political idea has permeated through society to control them. There is no other reason as far as I can ascertain. I'm saying that so that I can offer it up to the panel and maybe Discord, or maybe even the chat, keep an eye on it, to say, can you see any other reason as half the time we're justifying why we won't answer the question, why would they lie?
Hold on.
Well,
That's why I say they're screwed. Because how long do you think that they're going to be able to keep this?
For
there's also the begging the question part of the why would they lie infers that they are lying, right? When you ask why they're lying, it's almost a part of humanity that wants to think that these people know what they're doing, they're smart, they're in control, they understand it completely, and there is the possibility that they are just wrong and as dumb as the rest of everyone else.
In other words,
Nathan,
okay, let me just hold on. I'll just boil these down each as they come, right? So you're saying if the public were to perceive these people who are in control and very smart and know what they're doing as just being as dumb as they are, then their trust and faith in the people who control them would be relinquished, and therefore the people who control them could no longer control them. Ergo, a methodology of control.
Yeah, but I don't think it's one that would be exercised knowingly.
Fair. I see that.
individual.
No need to drop that in. I should just concede that point. I've phrased it how they phrase it to us. The people who come newbie flat earthers. Why would they lie? Right, that's what they are. They're at the gates. They're knocking on the door, and they're asking the wrong question to get in. Why would they lie? No. That's not how we would phrase it. So, yeah, they're not necessarily lying at all. It's unwitting. They don't know that they're telling you that the engineer at NASA who's definitely produced something high tech and tested it to the nth degree, so he knows it's perfectly suitable to travel to Narnia. He just doesn't know it's going to Narnia, or more obviously not going to Narnia. Narnia being space, in case you hadn't figured that out. All right, who's next? Thanks, John. Oh, refractive curvature. Anybody else?
I said, how long do you think they're going to keep it? They're screwed. They can't keep this too much longer.
yeah, they can.
And may I
Keeping it
add?
since 2000. They keep it. They will keep it.
They will keep it.
No way.
But
Look at the way the
Nathan-
information has gone out.
But Nathan, your metaphor was perfect, because that's exactly what it is. The same thing you just said about that alphabet community with the globe. It is a belief. It is an ideology. No matter how much scientific, biological, hormonal evidence that there is that debunks their claim that I am a man when I have male genitals or whatever, the vice versa, and all these other transhumanism claims of being this, I'm half wolf and all of this. So you'd be surprised what you hear, as well as all of the failed evidence and scientific and physics proof that there is no curve, they're measurable, there is no curve. Everything that they claim has been debunked. They're still going to stand on it. They're still going to hold that sword and swing it as much as they can. There's nothing you can do about it, because it's a belief and ideology. And as long as the government, whether it's inadvertent, intentional, passionate, empathetic, supports that ideology, because we have the right to believe what we want to believe in the United States or whatever other nation that believes that way, it will survive, Neil. You will never stop it, because even when it's proven to be wrong, you cannot stop people from believing what they want to believe. That's it.
That's right.
Shout out to Marco Knows It's God, who says, quote, "Watch out for the gypsies," end quote. Neil Constantino. Oh, it's Neil. Yeah. When did you say that? Watch out for the gypsies. Okay, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
Speaking of that,
I
gypsies
heard
is
my
nothing
name
but-
mentioned.
Speaking of that, gypsies is nothing but a term that came from Egyptians of refuge, just to let you know, or people from the Egyptian area or from a Pacific tribe who were considered the gypsies. They were refuge. They were like settlers. They settled everywhere. So just to let you know, that's where the gypsy come from. Just take the E off. Egyptian, gypsy.
Right, and all ramblers are descendants of Rambo.
Shut up,
What the hell are you talking about, D-Rose?
bruh. Look it up.
That's
Gypsies
exactly
are
what
the
I would say.
connection
Look
to
up the history. Look up
really?
the history of the. Look up the history of the Huguenots. Look up the history of the Gypsies, and they're all the same people. They're the people that came from the East back in the day, who were refuge. They were
we?
seeking refuge.
You
or
know how
either
much we
seeking
love a good
solace.
baseless assertion. You look it up, son. Okay, right, let's go on. We'll do a bit more of Dave Weiss and Andrew Gold.
Have from top to bottom, everyone has the same time along this line. But the problem is, if I could find the right picture, where is it? So you got your time zones here, but the Earth is tilted. And if it's tilted, there would be different times everywhere. Now you could argue, well, it's an hour and a half here.
Sure.
Newfoundland is this and that.
Shout out to him's sake. He says, how's it going? Thank you for the support.
Okay. The sky is a perfect clock. And when I say that, it is the only perfect clock. The best watch in the world, best timepiece in the world. Guess what it's basing its time on? It's basing.
No, you've got that the wrong way around. So the way we have derived time is by way of the movements of the celestial objects, not the other way around. Just to make that clear. When you say it's the perfect clock, no, we got clocks from it, not the other way around.
It on the sky clock. So wherever the sun is, and I don't know if you can see this, it's noon where the sun is, from a straight line from the center all.
Where the sun is, again, just a minor tweak to your terminology, would be the sun's GP, the position above the land of the sun at a given time. Know these arguments, so he doesn't know the correct terminology to use. Where the sun is implies you know where the sun is. What's the sun, Dave? For you to know where it is. You don't. What you know is its ground position, where it's above at a particular time.
If you had an app called the Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Flat Earth app, and you're claiming that as the model of Earth, then you're kind of doing that, aren't you?
Yeah, in his model, he's got a little sun that goes round. Therefore, he's saying that's how far away the sun is. It's got to have a distance. It's an object in his model. Yes.
All the way out along the hour hand, that's where it's noon. So it's noon in Sydney, Australia right now, and it's midnight over here on the east coast of the United States. And so I can wait until the sun goes over an area, like, oh, look, it's right over South Africa, and I can call my friend up and say, where's the sun and what time is it? He goes, it's directly above me, it's noon. Then I could wait until later, and it's over in South America or over Australia, call the person up, and then anybody can do this, and they'll say the sun's right over me and it's noon, right? And so that's how time zones work. Time zones. The sun is the hour hand. It shows the hours and the days, right? If we turn it laps the moon. Watch. Right now you don't see the moon because it's a new moon, but you'll watch. It's getting away from the moon, and the moon will be dragging behind it. It laps the moon every 28, 29 days. So here it comes.
So that explains eclipses.
Yeah, well, yes and
Okay, so immediately he spotted how this could be a problem.
no. It definitely has to do with the moon. But you see the moon? So it'll lap it. So the moon keeps track of the weeks and the months. There used to be 28 day months.
Did you just entirely ignore Andrew?
Yeah,
with one extra day, one reset
on the script.
Yep.
Day, right? And then if I turn the stars on, if I turn the stars on, the stars are going slightly faster than the sun. So the sun will drift back through each zodiac for about a month, and it takes 365 times around before the stars will lap the sun. Okay? Dave, remember that? Not Dave. There we go. I'm just calling you Dave. The spiral model of the Earth, the heliocentric model, we're traveling 4.4 billion miles a year, never to return to where we were before.
Is that it? Where did the flat Earth proof come in from that? So in terms of how you establish your position, you can utilize the sun, and you can measure it and look it up in the almanac, figure out where it is above, and all those sorts of things. So based on that, you can describe how elevation angle measurements work and how flat plane would be required, and how the sun and its position at a given time of day can be used to plot out your position with angles off a flat Earth. But there's no transition to this being a flat Earth proof. And in terms of lining up how these things look on a clock, that's where they're derived from. So this is no surprise.
Well, he did make a claim about a model, right? Because he's presenting this model, and the Andrew Gold, I believe is his name, asked a pertinent question if this explains eclipses, and it's thrown a monkey wrench into his model that he's not addressed. So if anything, it seems as if flat Earth has been debunked from Andrew Gold's perspective. Dave is just now speaking past it.
Tonight and take a picture of the stars and put a note in your calendar to do the same thing, same place, same time, same day next year. Every single star will be in the exact same place. That's impossible in a heliocentric model. It shows that the stars are fixed in the sky. They never change, right? There's a shaft in the pyramid that looks up at Polaris, but they tell us, oh no, it used to look at Thuban 2,000 years ago, and it just happens to be looking at Polaris. Well, we had here in the United States, you know about the Georgia Guidestones?
No.
You know about the Georgia Guidestones? It's a monument that was put up in 1981, I think.
Anybody mind if I spin past this? No?
No, there's
Oh, I want to hear every second of this. This is beautiful. Oh, why speculation? I love it.
Well, it was up for 40 years and it still hadn't moved. A half a degree would knock it out. It would half a degree, I think, is like 1.5 widths of.
Just to summarize what I spanned through, there's a hole, or was before they got blown up, in the Georgia Guidestones that you can look through and see Polaris. Okay, there you go.
The moon or something like that.
Got a half a degree. It's interesting that they have that and the half a degree measurement from the baseline of using the Georgia Guidestones as if they're a protractor. But what do you need your baseline to be?
Flat.
Okay, it was still there. So you know what they did? They blew it up and they blamed it on a terrorist. Oh!
Again, what John's just pointed out is a wasted opportunity to derive a flat Earth from the construction of the Georgia Guidestones in terms of the methodology that also leads back to a flat Earth. Right, John? Refractive curvature?
Yes. Yeah. It was there in his hands.
Well, I mean, can you blame him? Can you blame him? Because Dave...
Who's him? Who's him? Who's him? Who's him? Who's him?
Hello?
Who's him?
No, Dave. Can you blame Dave? Because like the song says, if you don't know, you'll never know. I mean, he doesn't know this. He doesn't want to listen to you, Nathan. If he would sit down and be an adult and listen to you, he would be able to say these things and catch these ways and these open doors to be able to go through with that counter. But he doesn't listen to you. He wants to run his script, like you said. He has a program.
Darn it, just when it's proving the Earth is stationary, they blew it up. I know it's funny. This is a national monument. It was blown up same day. Bulldozers were there to knock the rest down to protect the public.
Yeah. All right. Wait. Okay. You've gone too far into the weeds with this one, but let me ask you another one. How does GPS work in your theory?
The ground positioning system is very simple. It's tower.
Okay. This he's got to get a win with. GPS is a Cartesian system. It's flat. Okay? It's also based on the same system that would eventually turn into it from the stars. It's all based on the same system. So a flat Earth is absolutely required for GPS. This has got to be a win. Come on, Dave, you can do it. We're rooting for you. Let's see what he's got.
Tower to tower. The towers are on the...
Go ahead, Arwin.
I was just going to say, he is going to figure out a way to screw it up. Once he gets going with the screwing up, he doesn't know how to stop.
I think there's an easy win here. Well, okay, we'll see, Arwin. You'll have to apologize if not.
The ground.
He ain't going to do it.
And the tower's on the ground, and they literally triangulate from one tower to the other, and that's it. So wherever you are, one tower sends out a signal, and it locates you, and another tower finds you and puts you on a circle, and the third tower finds you and puts you exactly where you are. The problem with GPS is it doesn't work in the middle of the ocean. It doesn't work in the middle of the Amazon.
How does that prove it's flat? Is triangulation the correct term?
I
Hold on a
told
second.
you.
Just one sec. Is he correct in his terminology?
Say triangulate.
Let's try a third time. Is triangulation the correct term, first and foremost? For GPS, would it not
No,
be...
it's not. Trilateration.
I was going to say, would it not be trilateration? We're all now leaving silence. I'll try and ask the question. Hopefully someone who knows the answer will just say yes or no, rather than leaving a giant pause. This hasn't been the best show since the pre-show, I've got to be honest, audience. Sorry about this. Let's try that again, panel. Is the term Dave Weiss used, triangulation, correct for this specifically? That's GPS. Is it actually...
No.
Okay,
No.
perfect. What?
Eli did
But
answer.
I've
He
heard
said
no.
No, it's incorrect. So the term would be trilateration for GPS, would it not? You've got known distances already.
That's what I heard.
Yes. Because you're measuring a time lapse of a return signal that will give you a distance, and then you're drawing your circle out with that distance.
And finally we get there. Thank you, God, for refracted curvature. And that circle that you draw out based on the trilateration from these signals and their return timings, well, what kind of surface would you have to draw that out on, John?
Well, a radius is always a flat, straight line. So the surface would have to conform to that geometry.
So it'd have to be a flat surface. And in terms of how these points are plotted out in the GPS Cartesian grid, that's also flat. So it's flat in terms of how it works mathematically. It's flat in terms of how the land is referenced. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
But what's that? Let's just contrast that flat Earth stone cold proof with the workings of GPS with it don't work out in the desert. That proves what? The sufficient nature of the GPS towers that you say it works with? How does that disprove a globe? Doesn't. How does it disprove satellites? All right, that's where he's going with this. So therefore, we haven't got satellites orbiting for the global positioning system. Yeah, half the actual GPS services out there will disclaim that to you themselves.
Amazon, it doesn't work in the Southern Ocean, it doesn't work in Antarctica.
Okay,
why?
But here's
It doesn't work in Antarctica. How do you know? According to David, we weren't able to go there. But now he knows that the GPS doesn't work down there. How do you know that?
Here's what I think is a key problem with the whole...
The key problem I see, Andrew, is that he could have proved the flat Earth with how the system actually functions. That's what he could have done, and didn't. Instead, highlighted the inabilities of the network itself, and the shortcomings of the network. Nobody gives a crap how GPS fails in certain locations. We just want to know how it proves Earth's flat. Well, this proves the notion of orbital mechanics. Or globe in global positioning system. That would be something that would be useful for the people on the fence maybe listening to this, if they understood that GPS requires Earth to be flat. That might be helpful to them, Dave.
Whole theory for me is it's not using the science. It's going back to the very...
Go on.
I just wanted to say, and we did highlight the initial error he did, because you did specify the difference between trilateration and triangle, right? So he didn't another Glober or somebody else, y'all made a big uproar about somebody doing that before, and that's one of the reasons why they didn't understand GPS, because they were saying the wrong term, and Dave's using the same wrong term, triangulation versus trilateration.
Well, so do we, and so do the... Sometimes it's excusable and sometimes it's not right. So if you go through the manuals that 10th Man presents to us, often they use the term triangulation, and sometimes we'll, depending on who we're talking to, go along with it, and sometimes we won't, right? Which is a bit discriminatory. But let me just explain. Adam's the best at doing this, because Adam will be the first to jump on the opponent in the debate and go, no, this isn't triangulation, it's celestial navigation. We're not using the triangle to calculate the height. Let's just focus on the height one, because that's the one where it's most obvious. We point out, well, no, we're not using the triangle to get the height. We're deriving the distance from the angle. That's got a title. It's celestial navigation, as opposed to triangulation. Now, just through vocab, I'll often myself say, well, we're triangulating our position. Well, we're not. That's wrong. We're utilising the methodology of celestial navigation. But in this instance, it's neither. We're talking about trilateration because it's GPS. But that so at some point we've clarified this. Now, it's actually QE that highlighted this to us only recently. We're like, you've got to be careful with your language. You're using this word incorrectly. And we're like, yeah, but it says it in the reference. You know, like, yeah, the reference is wrong too. So there you go. So just so that's on the record.
Right, but just so everybody knows, it's forgivable if you're a flat earther because all three require a flat plane to operate.
You were there in that conversation, weren't you, John? I remember you saying that when we had that conversation.
So is it still trigonometry, or is it
not
like...
necessarily? No, that's I should have dropped that in, right? Well done. Yeah, that should have been there too. No, not necessarily. You might be doing trig, but no. If you're using the stars to find your position, you're not using trig. No.
Right.
You're using celestial navigation. Sorry. The method is called. We say it like it's the title of the book. No. It is the method that's being employed. The method isn't triangulation. It isn't trilateration. It isn't trigonometry. It is celestial navigation. Self-contained, a thing all on its own, devoid, not those other things. Now, those other things may have similarities, things in common with celestial navigation, but they aren't celestial navigation, and celestial navigation is not those things. Are we all clear?
Yeah.
Roll into the, I don't know, some mean flat earther that wants to show how wrong we are as a flat earther on our own side. We'll go back and say, look, he said trilateration here when he meant triangulation. Yeah, whatever. Anyway.
And their commonality is a flat surface.
Yes, that's the main. Thank you also, D. Eli and D saving my skin. Yeah, the main overriding point here is regardless of which methodology you're describing, trig, trilateration, triangulation, or celestial navigation, you're going to need a flat plane for all of them. Yes.
When I said to you, you've gone blurry, by the way, out of
sorry.
Whatever it's happened.
What's going on there?
Yeah, but I said to you, the problem with this for me is that too many people would have to be lying to us or whatever. And you said no.
Yeah, we covered that as an appeal to consensus fallacy.
No, a lot of them are just believing what's told to them from above.
Yes, you believe what you're told from above, and it's terrifying to you that they might be wrong because you only defer to them because you're not an expert in any of these things, according to your own words. Therefore, you're on your own should you be shown to be in bad faith with the people you trusted.
But there are plenty of people involved in the manufacturing of things like GPS that involve, as far as they know, the people constructing it, at least 24 satellites orbiting Earth, satellites distributed in such a way that any given time from any point on Earth, at least 4 of them should be visible in the sky.
Really? Well, you don't understand how GPS works. Go and have an actual bit of research in terms of the technology and how it actually functions. The people who actually produce the stuff will tell you themselves that it's using transmitters on the ground. Transceivers on the ground. Is it transceivers? No, it'd just be transmitters, wouldn't you? You're only receiving the signal from it. Anyway, the towers are what is used, and they'll happily disclaim that to you. Now, why they might allude to there being a certain number of satellites, we can just debunk the certain number of satellites they may allude to by saying that, no, you can't have a second law of thermodynamics violation orbiting motion when the orbiting motion has been derived from a whole string of assumptions we covered yesterday that are all derived from a flat plane. Well, if you've got a flat plane to start inferring through calculations that you've got something to orbit, you haven't. You've got a flat plane. Further to that, once I let Adam in, the orbit itself takes place in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. So if these satellites can happily fall around in space, then the gas we're breathing can also vacate the area of volume that we are occupying and enter the area of volume that's the same volume of space. It's all the same volume. So we'd all be dead. We'd have no gas to breathe. In this picture that's next to Dave Weiss, you've got all the orbiting satellites. Yeah, well, this area of black is a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum in this cartoon of Earth. And in that cartoon of Earth, you'd have gas at high pressure vacating the area that it has to occupy when you say it's containing us. It isn't, by the way, Andrew. That's absurd. What it would do is fall in line with entropic law and disperse into the area of volume it has to fill. It's natural law.
That's how they've set up GPS to work. So
is it? So offer your research in terms of what you've done for GPS and how it works. You have no idea. This baseless assertion shit will not stand, Andrew. Will you offer all your references for how you've researched the inner workings of GPS? If you did, you'd know it was Cartesian and requires a flat plane. But you're saying you've looked into it and therefore you know the satellites in existence. In Narnia, a sky vacuum that violates the second law of thermodynamics. Yeah, we know you're bullshitting, Andrew. Now, your opponent across the desk from you does not know you're bullshitting.
It's not just like the government who are trying to hide God from us or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Well, there's a massive non sequitur.
It would also have to be all the people involved in the manufacturing of GPS. It would have to be all...
Would it? They all operate their functioning system on a Cartesian flat Earth grid system. Well, they've all got to be lying. No, we'd affirm that they are actually proving a flat Earth when the grid itself is flat. You've got flat Earth in that system with reference to sea level and the stars and all the angles. That's how it was all created. Off a flat plane. So no, we don't need to decry the engineers who created GPS like you're doing on our behalf, Andrew. They'd all have to be lying. No, they'd all have to be proving a flat Earth.
All the people involved in countless other kinds of navigational systems.
Wrong, absolutely not. So people, when the Apollo missions went off, they had like 2,000 or a ridiculous number of companies that were all making different parts. So everybody could say, my grandfather worked on it. I sent the hinge, I sent the seat, I sent the dial, I sent the door lock, right? The NASA, they never start going to space. It's people that build satellites send them to NASA. NASA says they put them up in space. In reality, they're using balloons and aircraft as satellites, right? NASA is the largest consumer of helium in the world. They actually...
Yeah, in reality, outer space, the place they claim to send these things, is not real. Why, you ask, Andrew Gold? Well, because the sky vacuum is 10 to the minus 17 torr, and we are breathing high-pressure gas. You know what high-pressure gas does? It expands in all directions to fill whatever volume it's got to fill. It's a natural law. Yeah, it's called the second law of thermodynamics. An inviolable law of nature, never to be defied. Your gas fills space. And what do you know? Your sky vacuum, where these orbiting satellites are claimed to be, is even called space. Your gas would fill that space. We'd all be dead. Not, well, what about the men in NASA who say they've made this? No. It doesn't matter whether or not they've made a technology. They might believe they've made a technology. I'm sure they have made this technology to send into Narnia. Now, that's the only bit that Dave's got right here. Doesn't mean they're sending it to space, but he needs to preface that, or indeed conclude with the fact that they can't be sending it to space because space is not real.
You own all of the major helium companies
Nathan,
in the world.
I just wanted to David basically just didn't respond to anything that the guy said. He didn't take it down and then just red herringed it with just a bunch of other stuff. It's like, let's move on. So it's almost like he sort of like conceded that he didn't know how to respond to that.
It's half answers, Arwen. I just heard that and I thought, brilliant, he's going to go and give a really good response to, are they all lying? And he talks about people making a hinge in a bracket, this part, that part. Are those people lying? No. Everything they do is genuine. There's no deception on their behalf. Does it mean that that bracket's going to space? No. And I thought he was going to make that point, which I think addresses what Andrew was saying, which is to mean it has to be true, otherwise everybody is in on the grift. And I think, again, you see, it makes half the point, and like yesterday with nearly getting the black swan out, it gets there and then he distracts himself with another point.
Right.
I thought he was about to answer that. Yeah.
But that makes it so useless. I mean, it's like he doesn't actually address the point. He doesn't tackle the issues. He just keeps moving on.
And they admit that they put up thousands.
Hey, Chocolate.
Football stadiums, okay, that carry 8,000-pound satellites. They're putting them up all the time, and they're using the satellites and the mesh network of the airplanes to create the GPS that you need or for the communications. But I think that most of the GPS is done with ground towers. People go, what about my cell phone? 99% of the world communications are done with undersea cables, okay, and towers.
Right.
People that work for satellite companies that set up the dishes. I just interviewed a dish pro, a guy that
Get them.
Again, frustration. I mean, I know you just kind of told him, but we're going to discuss GPS. You thinking that most of it's done by ground-based towers is kind of irrelevant unless you're going to cite it. This is an easy win. Describe what GPS is, what system it uses. As you said earlier, it's Cartesian-based. You put that to this guy who's a smart ass who thinks that just because everybody in Garmin company isn't in on the lie, it has to be true. Demonstrating to look at his thing that he's citing, GPS, what does it demonstrate fundamentally? What is it set upon? It's set on a flat-based Earth. Yeah, all its measurements are utilized from that Cartesian grid. Just get him to accept that point. So to him then to tell them how you wrap it around a ball or where the measurements are taken from, which frankly makes no difference, does it? Whether they're land-based or whatever, it doesn't affect what you're navigating across. What you're navigating across and the way in which the calculation is done is a flat plane. That's the point he needs demonstrating about GPS.
Works on the towers. He says they never point them up at the sky. They always point them at the horizon. They always point them at the closest tower. They're pointing them sideways. Right. Okay.
So just anything that uses anything like satellite, cable, not cable, but like Sky, like television, phones, all these things, you're suggesting is so compartmentalized that there are sort of these 100%. Evil, nefarious people at the top, and they're not letting. I mean, it's just in every country around the world.
No, that's your inference from what he said, that there's some nefarious hidden hand. I mean, this is very telling. This is what Andrew Gold fears.
Well, because remember, there is a habit among some, not most, but some American people to
what?
Or if you were talking to him, what he would say. So you're saying that all of these different things actually use a flat plane. Well, why is that far-fetched? It's not like you guys aren't saying all of these things are derived from a globe, except you're wrong.
Yeah, but we'd have to show how they're not derived from a globe. They're originally derived from a flat plane. Even if you can take, like, with the globe burger and say, well, look, we take the angle to the stars that are really far away and then we transpose it to the centre of Earth on the flat plane. You're like, well, hold on. You're not standing in the middle of Earth to measure this angle. Transposition from a curve that won't give you an angle to a flat baseline inside hell isn't a decent answer. Just means you're telling us, by way of this disclaimer, that you can't measure this angle on a curved surface. That's because you can't. Well, you do measure the angle. So what's the conclusion? Well, you are measuring the angle and it must be flat to measure it. Well, the whole process starts with that angle. So what are you going to do? Tell me that it is a sphere because you took the angle from a flat plane and then moved it to the centre of Earth? Nope, it's not going to fly.
So a lot of the time these things are very American based. Do you not think there would be some government around the world who would say, hang on a minute, like
always deferring to the authority, Andrew, you pathetic cuck? So for you, there must be a big daddy government that can lead me in the right direction, and one of them that's going to stand up to the bad, evil baddies and the hidden hand that are saying it's a globe when it isn't. Surely one big daddy government would stand up for me, the little man who can't possibly figure this out for myself. I haven't got the experience or qualifications, as you disclaimed earlier. It's absolutely pathetic. We live in a world of cucks. You, if you're listening and you're like, Andrew, you're just a cuck who needs to suckle at the teat of government. Have them protect you because you're weak.
Let's tell our people that's not true. Every country in the world, the countries that are renowned for not getting on with one another, hating each other, blowing one.
And yet, only 10 minutes earlier, Andrew Gold was telling us how the countries that he's reified into this mass unified thought processing entity. No, they're just individual dicks that want to earn the most money, aren't they, Andrew? You explained that earlier. Yeah, but doesn't that sort of allude to the idea that they're not this massive intelligence, this government brain that collectively knows everything? No, it's just individual dicks that don't really know anything, isn't it, Andrew? You know that. It's just very scary for you.
Another fair point is that, no, Andrew, it's not all of the governments in the world, just the ones that participate with each other.
Even then, the ones that are participating and going, oh, yes, we must fund these government agencies going to space. Very, very wise. You go, oh, yeah, of course, everyone nods. Well, when it actually gets back to the people who've got to fake it, doesn't mean that everybody who passed it up the line to them knows it's fake when they're passing it on to that agency to pour $10 billion into a black hole of fakery. They don't necessarily know. Nobody has to know. It could be a very small number. It could be 5 people for all we bloody know. Who cares? Show him how it's flat and let him worry about his pain of Big Daddy government not being truthful. That's his problem. Who cares why they lied? I don't care why they lied. Yeah? But I don't live with this requirement that Daddy government's going to tell me the truth and that I have to appeal to them to fight it out amongst themselves to give me the truth at the end of the process. I don't care. I don't watch the news. I couldn't give a crap. That's why I've got very little interest in what Andrew Gold says beyond what he talks about with Scientology in mind.
Hey,
Another
you know what?
I know what they do when they get into conflicts. They go to the theater of war. It's amazing.
This is what happens.
Okay, and they get order followers
Can you hear him? Can you hear the video playing?
to kill other order followers. The Cold War, America and Russia. Guess how many people died? 0. Guess how many battles there were? 0.
How do you know? Is he going to back this baseless assertion? That's off a wild tangent, nothing like a flat Earth claim. Go ahead, D-Rose.
I was just say, this is what happens when you're on your own. You're your own editor. You don't have a panel of co-writers, somebody to, to approve reifications and to, to give you that he's his own yes boss at a boy, and he's not seeking like you seeked, or he seeks you, QE. Just to, you can't. He's doing this on his own, so he's basically just regurgitating the same script over and over again, and he's just not representing well for a flat earther on the level that it needs to be now in 2023. He's still in that 2014, 15, 16, 17 thing, and he's saying the same stuff over and over again. And now it's a new age. We're on another level, and he's just blatantly exposed to be so fallacious with what he's saying. And they can shred him. They can shred him to pieces now. The globe is out there, even the A list to the F list.
0. Okay, it's
Dave.
all yes. There you go. I'm telling you, I got.
What are you talking about? It's just a total misunderstanding of how the Cold War works, and it's not 0 because people died just from the Red Scare, McCarthy era. People died in their own countries because of that. People died who were spies who were caught. So it's not 0, is it? And
as evidenced by the historic standard of the dissemination of the information via the media that you trust wholeheartedly and implicitly. As evidenced by your primary research to every spy you've now claimed lost their life. Obviously, you've done all this primary source research, haven't you, Andrew? You're a very good journalist. I'll ask you about it if we ever speak.
Don't start yet. I want to say something.
But let me just round it out. So, yes, generally speaking, if you're going to make that sort of claim, Andrew, I'd expect some primary source evidence to be presented to back that. I mean, obviously, you might have it, but I'd be intrigued to see how deep you actually go as a journalist. How extensive your primary source research actually is. I'd be intrigued to find out how good you are. Go ahead.
He's not doing it wrong there, is he? He's responding to Dave's suggestion that nobody in the Cold War actually died. It's all fake. Yeah?
My bad. Yeah, Dave, you complete clown.
It's made up and all this sort of stuff.
Sorry, it's just there's been you've got to. For the audience, right? I can't just direct every bit of vitriol to one of the panel members if it's all garbage and they're both goldfish. I can't. I've got to even it out a little bit. So in this instance, I'm aiming my vitriol towards the side of the argument that's saying they do know about what happened in the Cold War. Now, I don't give a crap about either of these sides of these arguments. I don't care. But whenever I hear a claim, my natural instinct says, what's your base evidence to make that claim? What's the primary research that you did to achieve this as a statement that you're now prepared to put your reputation on? In other words, how good are you as a journalist if you're going to make these sorts of claims? Now, the same applies to Dave, who said the complete polar opposite. Nobody died, nobody got hurt. Okay, that overgeneralization needs to be qualified with a little bit of evidence. What have you got? So far, neither of them have got anything. Just so it's fair. Are you happy now?
Why are we even talking about it? And hold on, I'm waiting to get something. I know you all heard me. when Nathan stopped me to finish his point. D-Rose, the sad thing is, you're right about that. He's still stuck in 2014, 15, 16. I don't even think he's advanced to 17. The sad thing is, he thinks he won this debate, and he thinks he wins all his debates.
Yeah.
That's the sad thing.
Well, you know, what you just said about what's this? Why are they arguing about it to begin with? Like, right. If Dave wins this point, what is he proven about the nature of Earth?
Well, he's on a vibe to say that the government is lying to you because his opponent's postulating the position that not everybody could be in on it in order for this to be achieved. So with that in mind, he's giving examples of how, absolutely, you've got government lies afoot. And he's brought up an example of the Cold War, presumably, from Dave Weiss's perspective, having not researched what this guy actually covers, therefore having a reasonable idea of if he's going to go outside of the box, where he needs to go outside of the box to not be caught out by his opponent, who clearly knows a lot more about it than he does.
It wasn't a war fought on the ground. You know that.
You were started with GPS and
No, he doesn't know that, clearly.
Satellites, and here's them launching a satellite. This is what's done, okay?
Back onto his script. So what, that Cold War non sequitur going to be shut down by your opponent? You brought it up.
They launched two...
Go on, whoever that was. No, it was just them.
1,000 weather balloons every single day to chart the worldwide weather. 2,000 every single day from 1,000 locations across the earth. They all launch at the exact same time, twice a day. Okay?
And that proves Earth's not a sphere, proves Earth's not flat, disproves orbital mechanics and motions. What? So what?
It proves that there aren't satellites, and that's supposedly
it does not.
important.
No, it does not disprove that there are not satellites in space, Arwin. That is incorrect. Go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say, no, it doesn't. It proves that they release lots of balloons each day.
Right, but he thinks that is proof that they don't need satellites in space. That's his argumentation.
Is the Earth more round if they release less balloons? What's the ratio? What's the link between balloons, number of balloons, and the nature of the plane we're living on?
There isn't one. There isn't one. Hello. Adam's right. Adam's correct. Hello. It's completely non sequitur. Unless he draws this to a flat Earth proof or a globe debunking, all it does is, this is where Arwin is correct. In Dave's mind, he's doing a fabulous job. He's disproving satellites in space with this. No, you're not. It's an entirely non sequitur point.
It is, but he does think that because there's so many balloons that it's literally satellites aren't necessary, and he thinks that undoes it all.
Yeah, that might be true. That might be. Let me respond. That might be the case. Yeah, there might be, as you put it, so many balloons that we don't even need satellites in space. That's real, that we all know is still real, and orbital mechanics is. Do you see where I'm going, Arwin?
Yes, I totally do.
Go ahead, D.
And if I may, let's say there was no argument on the side of a curvature spherical Earth. What is wrong with having a bunch of things that's hovering over the flat plane, whether it be held up by helium balloons or by engines that have to come down and get more fuel to hover up there? If they're all up there, it doesn't change the fact of the surface being flat, even though that is their argument. And
it does. Well, let me explain. Let me answer. Because they use the term orbit. That's the only reason.
Right. I got you. Well, I didn't say orbit. See, I didn't say orbit.
I know you didn't.
Hovering.
But in the mind's eye of anybody in the world that thinks that there are satellites in space, they're in an orbit, falling around. Although most people don't appreciate it's falling, but that aside, that's what they immediately envisage when they have the idea that there's a satellite in space orbiting a sphere Earth.
Got you.
That's how they chart out all the weather. It's not done with satellites. It's done with balloons. And once you see the balloon programs, you can't deny it.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'm not going to be able to beat you on the science because I don't know enough about it.
Not science. You don't know what science is. This isn't science. So beating him on the science when he's not talking about science implies that you don't know what science is. We already covered that on yesterday's show. Andrew does not know what science is.
I think I've got you on the...
He does think they're talking about science, though, because Dave referred to his experiments tab. And again, in yesterday's show, if you want to refer to it, Andrew Gold said, "Oh, I'm not very good on this science stuff when we're talking about the experiments and your fraudulent tab."
On just the philosophical part of it, it just doesn't work. There are 7-8 billion people on this planet.
Have you counted them?
There are
That's
too
another
many.
lie. That's another lie. There's not 7 or 8
well,
billion.
you're right.
Have you counted them? Have you counted them, Dave, to say that there isn't?
Right, I take that in faith. You're right. I take that in faith. How large is
you're putting out is in faith, and the thing is, most people that fight the flat Earth are they're just.
When he says that, is he referring to repeat criminal offender and outrageously violent, says judge, fight the flat Earth, aka Craig McNeil? Is that what he's referring to?
I knew you were going to say that, Neil.
No, he's just saying he's using that as like those people that fight the flat Earth. Like,
Oh, so he's not specifically referring to outrageously violent, says judge, criminal repeat offender, fight the flat Earth, Craig McNeil. He's not specifically referring to that outrageously violent criminal.
I don't think at this point Craig had been convicted of the outrageous violent assault that he did on his neighbour at that point.
I see. But had he already been convicted of poking a woman when he had a bout of outrage on the road?
Could have referenced that then. Just
The woman that
oh
he,
wow,
the woman that he assaulted.
he spazzed out on somebody.
Yeah, a woman in his car. He got very angry and started poking her with a stick, assaulting her with a deadly weapon. That's correct.
Oh wow,
When was this?
what a gentleman!
I don't know when. Craig told me in my comments
was this Craig?
about
Yeah,
the
Craig, I
woman.
heard about it,
Obviously,
yes.
Craig blamed the victim of his violent assault with his walking stick, but ultimately Craig admitted that he'd been beating women in my comments. Anyway, moving on.
Believing what they were taught in
But
Well, regardless
just
of Craig,
so we can draw a close to that. Sorry, my bad. They were not talking about repeat violent criminal offender Craig McNeil from Fight the Flat Earth channel. Just so we're clear, they weren't talking about that violent criminal offender. We're all clear that they weren't talking about repeat violent criminal offender Craig McNeil. We all know they're not talking about him.
Repeated. Okay, look at. I want to talk about that. I never look at it like this until y'all just brought it up. Regardless of whether about the spherical Earth thing, Tartary, everything. I never really thought about it when people say, "Well, there's 6-point-something billion people." How the hell do they know? I know so many people that don't fill out census forms. There's so many people that are homeless on the earth that don't get accounted for. I mean, how do they know? A lot of people don't even go by the Social Security in the United States because they don't believe in that, because they use midwives and that different ways that people are not accounted for. So when we go by that, I live by that. When I heard that, just because the person or the entity that said it, I literally said there's 6-point-something billion. But how do they really know? So that's another thing when it comes to what we talk about, making these claims. Can you prove it? I love the way y'all do this.
I always
That's why I
thought
love
that was
this show.
nonsense.
I love you guys. I don't care
Even
what
way
you
before,
do.
but
I don't
bro,
care
even
what
way
you do.
before.
It's one at a time.
I'm talking
Chocolate.
to him,
Hello,
bro.
one at a time.
I'm
Chocolate.
admitting,
Just chocolate.
I'm admitting my flaw.
Just chocolate. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I feel what you mean, but I always thought that was nonsense. I never
But
understood
sometimes-
how did they think, even when I thought in the back of my mind that it was a ball. How would you know how many people are here? There's some dude in a cave somewhere y'all don't know nothing about, hanging out, doing his thing. What the hell is that? You guys don't know how many people are on this ball. Come on, that's crazy.
Chocolate, not everybody's as analytical and critical as you are. You didn't even know about the things that me and Eli knew about the so-called black ether and all that stuff. All right, you're special.
So
I got you.
Did you say
They
black
had to,
ether? Sorry.
Nobody's trying to say I'm
Hello.
special.
Did you just say black ether?
Let's not get back to that. Let's not go back to that, please. We know what we're talking about. Thing we talked about before when we were talking about how they were saying the ether and it's a black consciousness thing and black people from outer space, and I don't want to go back into that.
No, I do vaguely remember. No, I do vaguely remember now you say it.
what they were indoctrinated to believe.
Go on, Eli.
What?
We've
No.
got to get back to the video at some point. Can we round this out? This is fun, but let's just go ahead.
All
Eli.
right, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Why? Okay, let's say you're right about this, and I have no real. I'm not somebody who has the kind of ego where I've got to like win and beat someone. What's the point? Let's say you're right. Like, why is it important to you? And I do understand that truth is important, but tell me why else it's important specifically to you, not to flat earthers in general. What is this to you?
Well, once you break the heliocentric spell, your thoughts create your world. You
Again, anybody mind if I whiz past Dave's musings on this?
Yeah, because I was gonna say he told him truth. He told him the answer. Like, he asked the question and then gave the answer. There's nothing more pertinent than because truths are good and lies are damaging. Because it's the truth. That's why it's important. The end.
He hasn't sold it as the truth, though. He hasn't given enough evidence for him to just say, because it's a fact. So at the end of, if this was posed to me at this point, back to armchair quarterbacking, I would say, well, I've already demonstrated to you that it can't be anything other than flat. So when you're like, how does this affect me? It's like, well, mind your own bloody business how it affects me. You know, how does it affect you? That's for you to concern yourself with when you face the fact that all the people you trusted have lied to you, and that while you were suckling on the teat of Big Daddy government and going, and you've got to let go now, and suddenly you're on your own, and you've got to find out what the truth is.
Unless time is constricted.
Replay the last 5 seconds, because that was more of a statement, I think, of how you view the world.
Let's say you're right about this. And I have no real... I'm not somebody who has the kind of ego where I've got to, like, win and beat someone. You know, what's the point, you know? Let's say you're right. Like, why is it important to you? And I do understand that truth is important, but tell me why else it's important, specifically to you, not to flat earthers in general. What is this to you?
Well, once you break the heliocentric spell, your thoughts create your world. You realize that everything in your life is because of the way you think. The good things, the bad things are attracted to you because you're thinking about them, and you know you're bringing those things into your life. The biggest conspiracy in the world is that the universe is conspiring to deliver you every one of your thoughts. So everything in your life is your fault. Period. Okay, I believe that, and it's kind of provable, right? And so if your thoughts are contained, right,
So,
in a...
We're now into, what, metaphysics? Dave's spiritual view of the world, karma. Is that what we're... Once you realise that you're being lied to, then your thoughts form your reality. But it's not what Flat Earth's about. It's not what the moon... You know what I mean? It's a strange proposition.
Yeah, Earth's flat. How it affects you is your business.
But to say that then you shape your reality, again, it's got nothing to do. This might be very personal belief today. It's got nothing to do with the nature of Earth. It's to do with how Dave views his world in a post-religious viewpoint that he's got now, in a more sounding a bit new agey, isn't it? And the way he views things. I don't see how that's anything to do with the nature of the Earth.
Very appealing, though.
I'm just curious. Can I ask a question?
I'm gonna go with
I missed the beginning of this from yesterday, but at any point during the whole time that Dave was talking to this guy, and the times he brought up orbital mechanics and space and how fast Earth is traveling and spinning and chasing the sun, did he at any time tell him that this place that he's talking about can't exist? Or did he just give him the argument like, yeah, you think that you're on a ball spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, chasing the sun at 500,000 while going around at 66,000 miles per hour? Did he at any point tell him that this place that we're talking about can't exist?
No.
Being the fact that we have gas pressure here?
No, exactly, Chuck.
Yes and no. Hold on. Yes and no. Adam, you can go in a moment. But he did say it as part of the script right at the beginning. But it was just scripted off. It wasn't in defence of any argument. So yeah, he did say it at one stage. He fleeted past it. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay.
He may have done. I've not noticed it. What I'd noticed in relation to that, Chuck, is to point out the ridiculum of some of the movements, the 660,000 miles an hour this way, that way. He's kept pointing that out as evidence that these things aren't, the luminaries aren't doing that. It's just ridiculous to claim it. But no, at no point has he demonstrated that. Forget what they're doing. what they're doing it in.
Yeah, not with the caveat of
Because if you don't
by the
know,
way,
you don't know.
by the way,
No,
this,
he
this
does
place that this
know.
is happening, this place that this is happening can't exist the way you tell it, the way they tell us it is, being that we're breathing gas pressure. Like,
I mean, this is
even before when he was talking about the satellites and as opposed to whether they're actually setting off balloons. Why would they be? Why wouldn't he tell him why? Why is it that they're setting off these balloons? Because you think they're putting satellites in a place that can't exist. But he just says no, but just balloons.
Yeah.
See,
I don't
that's
know.
what we would say, Chocolate. That's not what he would say. They
So
do
Chocolate.
not use our arguments.
So
But
chocolate.
it's not our argument. The fact that gas pressure, you can't have gas pressure without a container. I mean, come on. What? That should be an
chocolate.
underhanded thing that's thrown at everybody anytime that place is spoken about.
There's so many ways to destroy that. With first of all, with the distances being derivative of the radius, which is derived from
Yeah.
John. But I mean, we wouldn't be able to breathe. There's a honorable mention of the movie Total Recall on Mars where they had to have a dome. But for real though, there's the sun. There's Jupiter. Well, not an actual, but they actually say that that's a gas giant. So like, there's no mass other than the mass of the gas. And then how do you define mass? It's like, how do you have like a giant ball of gas in the vacuum of space?
That's what
Like,
I was going to
that's
say.
absurd.
So basically, there's a debate about, no, it's not satellites. It's helium balloons. No, it is not. Whereas if you nip it in the bud, all you have to do is say what you guys said. It is improbable, totally improbable for helium balloons to be in Narnia. It is improbable, totally improbable for anything because Narnia doesn't exist. That's a nip in the bud. Is it like a slide? Is it like a slide of the hand magician act? Have everybody arguing about this over here while it hasn't been solved and
Yeah, you're right. You're
you
right.
know?
It is a sleight of hand because as soon as people, when people say balloons, you're okay with thinking balloon is just something you just put up high in the sky.
Mhm.
But the sleight of hand is the word satellite because when people hear that word, what they think is a washing machine with solar panels on it and a floating around and a freaking second law of thermodynamics violation. That's what they're
Exactly.
thinking.
Controlling our telecommunications radar and sonar.
Heliocentric world where we're going to get hit by an asteroid, a nuclear bomb's going to blow us up. You know, wars, countries are fighting with each other. We're running out of food. We're running out of water. If you're living in fear, you lose your power, right? We're in a spiritual war. I know that you don't believe that, but it's a war that the elite believe in. Okay, they're really evil people, and once you break that and unplug, you stop feeding the system. And I don't believe that anybody can stop you. And, you know, nobody's allowed to take away your natural law rights. Careful how I say that with you. Okay. No one's allowed to take it away, but you're allowed to give it away.
What? Natural law.
Right. So there's no such thing. There's God-given rights. Yeah. They're the ones you
What the hell
claim
is
in natural. If you want to talk about, you know, common law and stuff like that, you forego your human rights and you claim your God-given rights. It's strange you wouldn't refer to that because that's even in law, that's what you're claiming, not some hippie natural rights. It's your God-given rights.
Part of his script is to parrot off as many buzzwords and headlines that appeal to the most possible people, and this is just another example of it. You know, parrot off a bit of free man headlining so that anybody who's got that going through they're going through the motions of that research at that moment will go, oh, he knows about Freeman. Oh, right. That's all this is. And you're like, but he's a surface scratcher. So he doesn't actually know much about this stuff.
You're allowed to give it away. People can trick you. And if you don't pay attention and realize what this world really is, you give away much of your life. most people in this world.
When I was on the globe, I didn't give away any of my life. In terms of what I did with my taxes and my general day-to-day living, not a great deal changed when I transitioned to Flat Earth. Most of the things I'd given up on, like media, I'd already given up on anyway. That's just me personally. But for me personally, no, not a great deal did change. An affirmation that you've been lied to on a massive scale, yes. A realisation that you can't really trust anything these people say. I'd pretty much got there anyway. But Dave's inferring that this revelation will give you something. And it might not. It might leave you very hollow if you're expecting to get something out of it that you don't necessarily get at the end of the process. Okay, well, better to offer it on a no-nonsense, no-frills platter that just says, here's how it's flat. This is what is measured. This is how it's navigated. This is how it appears. This is how it's dealt with. Flat. From that point forth, any further contemplations by the person you've given that information stop being your responsibility. But if you've peddled free energy and a revelation in terms of the paradigm shift that you'll experience, then that's the expectation people have. It's just not fair.
Well, there's also, the being a social pariah comes with the knowledge of this truth. So, yeah, maybe putting a little disclaimer on it every now and again wouldn't hurt.
That's being jazzed up with free energy.
Work 9 to 5 at best. Okay. They come home, they eat, they watch Netflix.
Describing almost everybody will be watching this. So you are in a 9 to 5 watching Netflix and you go, that's me. That's me. I could have this revelation. I could have the free energy. I wouldn't need to work my 9 to 5 and my mundane job and my Netflix. Let me get behind Dave. How much for the app?
They watch HBO, they go to a sports game, they drink, and then they start the week over again. And then when they're too old to enjoy anything, they got a little bit of money, they retire and die. Okay? That's not what life is. That's not what life is.
So can I just say, I respect that, okay? And I do. I respect you. I think I should respect everybody I speak to. Why not? And you're a nice man. I would just say what you've said. I mean, I don't know much about the science of flat Earth. I do know about the science and the dynamics of cult think and conspiratorial think and those.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Well,
anybody who's listening is probably Alexandra. He absolutely doesn't.
But the science of cults, the cause and effect based on natural phenomena of a cult.
Nah, that more like the science of cults, like on the cover of a book.
Would that not be psychology or sociology? Pseudosciences?
Yeah.
The psychology of cults.
Well,
Yeah, the social structures of cults. Those would be not science, though, would they? But he's just attributed science to those things he says he knows. What, so you know the science of cults? Well, then, Andrew, you're basically a scientist, aren't you? You complete clown.
And he didn't make a proper connection there when he's talking about he's trying to connect globe earthers with poverty. That's not why people have a poverty mindset. If he would have tied it into some sort of psychology, some sort of
Who he? Who's he?
Yeah, but he's not.
Oh God, for Jesus Christ! Stop. You need to say Dave Weiss or Andrew Gold. Otherwise, we have no idea who you're talking about. Who's he?
When Dave Weiss tried to conflate people being on a globe, being the normal working man who barely have anything in retirement, those things aren't necessarily related because there are people who believe in the globe who are super wealthy. So
right,
that was a bad connection.
It's that false dichotomy, isn't it? You mentioned it. What changes when you realise the Earth is not a ball? Nothing really, other than how you may come to the realization, but it doesn't give you any freedom. It opens you up to, like I said before, we're selling shit. Yeah, it's not what's being painted. It doesn't offer up a new paradigm to you, a new spiritual way of viewing things, or as you alluded to, give you access to free energy so that your life changes in any way. The only thing for me and I suppose it's the most fundamentally important anyway, is as you explore this, there becomes the realization that you are created. That's the only life-changing thing for me if you're talking about stuff like that.
Me
And
too.
that is for you to deal with and reconcile.
I remember the very moment I contemplated it on a drive to Tesco, doing something incredibly mundane, and that went through my mind. Right, it's about a year into Flat Earth, and at about that stage, I was a denier. I was like, "No, there's no God." I was almost an atheist. So you go, what does this imply? What are the implications of this? And I was going through it on the way. I had to pull over and stop and have a little word with myself, because suddenly I'm like, "Oh my God, it all has consequences." You know, we're not in an infinitely expanding soup of nothingness. I'd already come to that conclusion, but that was part of the things that I was having to contemplate. We are created. There is an external entity that created what we experience. That has profound implications, life-changing for some. Now, I believe in many instances that is subconsciously braced against, like I did. Now, obviously, I can only relate it to my own experience, hence I'm extrapolating it out to everyone in a generalization fallacy. But nevertheless, in my opinion, people have got so many skeletons in their closet that they have put there because who cares? Doesn't really matter. Life's not really that important. We're we're totally insignificant, in fact. So what does it matter? When you come to the realization, no. On the contrary, we have great significance. Yeah? It may be the case that we are all that there is. Now, I don't know that. But the point is that you have to have some sort of introspection at that moment, like I did when I pulled over. I went, "Oh my God, I might be being watched," so to speak. That's how I figured it in my mind. I probably wouldn't rationalize it that way today, but that's how I rationalized it at the time. You're like, "Oh God, someone on my shoulder."
Saying that, Nathan, I mean, there's that many people I know who are globe believers, ordinary Joes, and they believe in a God and a creator as well. But they also believe in the heliocentric model, not realizing.
My uncle's a pastor. First thing I did when I found out that the subject was go to him. "What, Earth's flat?" Hold on a second. Hang on a minute. "Adrian, come and have an interview with me. Tell me how you believe in God and Jesus and what it says in the Bible, and yet you believe in a globe. You square that circle for me." I did a full 3-part interview with him. It's like 7 or 8 years ago now. That's turn 80, actually.
They're not reading the scriptures properly. That's the problem.
Shout out to you, Adrian Hawks, about to turn 80. Anyway.
The problem is all the things that are impossible with the heliocentric model. The problem is that people that do believe in God, they believe that God could just make that happen. God could just create a ball with water sticking to the outside of it.
Yes.
And us chasing around, a gas.
Oh, but I'm sure he could.
A gas body.
I'm sure
people
he could.
think that could just happen.
No, hold on.
There are people that believe in God and evolution, and they just believe, God gave the spark, and evolution took care of the rest. Because God.
I know
I
you're
did it
saying they could.
myself.
Hold on now. You're saying they could, and what you mean is they do, but in reality they cannot. Number one, you'll need a flat Earth for that. Number two, the existence of a creator is scientifically validatable through the processes that give us our modern technology with quantum mechanics. So you can extrapolate out the ontological primitives with scientific validity. Well, when you get to those stages of this discussion, there is no squaring the circle of Christianity with heliocentrism. If you actually take the Bible literally in the places that it is literal, there's absolutely no chance that you as a Christian, if you are one, can take the world to be a sphere. It's not. As described by, according to your own scriptures, the hand of God. So no, I'm afraid not. Nevertheless.
Can I answer now, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Neil.
I used to think the same thing. I even preached it, how glorious God was, how we're spinning, but we don't feel it. The problem is it just doesn't say it in scripture. When your eyes are open, then you see what the Bible is actually saying in Genesis. It does not say it in scripture. So yeah, God could do it, but it doesn't say he did it that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
He
I
might,
feel
exactly.
you.
That's what
And
I was
that's
going to
in
say to Chocolate.
relation
Sorry, Chocolate. That's exactly what I was going to say to you. Yeah, there's a good chance he could have made it a ball. He just didn't.
Yeah, I get that. I trust me, I get that. But that's what I'm saying. Like people, that whole, you're gonna need a flat Earth for that. They skip that whole thing and just say, "Hey, no, no, no. It's a ball. That's what I believe." And yes, it might seem impossible, but God created us, and God is not. God is capable of the impossible.
Kinds of things, and
right?
we are all engaged in them, all of us. None of us are free of this. I'm not suggesting this is something that is part of your.
Oh yeah, back to this bit of disdain. Yeah, you telling the audience, Andrew, that you understand the science of cults essentially raises your stature to scientist, which you are absolutely not. So, as Dave got a taste of this yesterday, now you will get a taste of it, Andrew Gold, you fraudster. Because you are not a scientist when you study cults. That would be a pseudoscience, a non-adherence of the scientific method. To assert the scientific validity of your pseudoscience is fraud. You understand me, Andrew? Oh, by the way, let Andrew Gold know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I'll stick a link to his video so you can let him know the love he received when we rightfully called him a fraudster for claiming science for the pseudoscience of psychology/sociology, which are definitely not adhering to the scientific method. In case you question my validity when calling you a fraud, Andrew, type into Google the word pseudoscience and see what comes up. I'll just tell you, save you the bother. It explains that it's a claim of science that has not adhered to the scientific method. That is the textbook definition of pseudoscience. Now, do you think your little research into cults has adhered to the scientific method? Oh, definitely not. Making it pseudoscience and making you a fraud. How'd you like those apples, Andrew? Do you think you'd be smirking when you talk to me about flat Earth? No, my friend, you'd be exposed as a fraud. Like I'm doing now, with an audience letting you know so.
Your mind and not my own. But what you've just told me is what is very common in cults. So in Scientology, they call it you pulled it in. It means everything is your fault that happens to you. The idea is they're selling you this dream that even though it seems harsh on the surface, like, hey, we're going to blame you for everything, they're also telling you you're actually in control. You can control things. And there is no human...
They are so far off the subject. They're into philosophy and what
and religion.
What does that have to do with measurement?
Nothing.
This is stupid.
Nothing, but Andrew Gold is skirting onto something he's incredibly well researched on. Every word he just said about Scientology is true. It's the way they use their religion to victim shame people and basically blame them when they get screwed over by another person. This was in your control when you had the living crap beaten out of you. That's just a way of victim shaming in the Scientology religion. And he's absolutely correct. But he's segueing away from the discussion at hand because he's got knowledge in this subject, so he can seem intelligent while he's claiming to be a bloody scientist and talking about the science of cults. So he's got to demonstrate that he knows his stuff so he can get away with his fraud.
Emotion that is more disturbing, in my opinion, than feeling out of control.
That sounds a little culty, but Andrew, you planned on having this this conversation, and you made it happen. You pulled it into your life, right? You've created your reality. You build your life. The problem is people
I don't mean to suggest that's not true at all. And like there's a lot of controversy around people like Jordan Peterson, for example, because he's always saying, well, things more. Unfortunately, it is my belief, and my belief might be wrong, but it is my belief that there are things in this world that are beyond our control. And it's really scary to go to the universe and
high pressure next to low pressure. You okay with that? Or is that
events scared and sad and dark, and you worry about
I'll swim back
and what might happen to you after, and all the mysteries of the universe, and that's hard. And so the human mind invents a story.
Well, you invented a story that you live on a scientifically impossible ball. Let's talk about.
No, he didn't. No. The pseudoscience pretender clown Muppets claimed they had empiricism by saying the word science. But like Andrew Gold, when they said it, they didn't have an adherence to the scientific method. They weren't scientists, and it wasn't science when they said, the whole body of science proves we're on a ball. Yeah, they were committing fraud. They didn't have science. They weren't adhering to the scientific method.
High pressure next to low pressure. You okay with that? Or is that above your pay grade?
No. He's mischaracterized it immediately as being science, and when it isn't. This is a description. Let's just clarify for the audience's benefit, hopefully Dave's if he's listening, the difference between natural law and scientific method. Scientific method observes a phenomena and then establishes the cause of it through an experiment based on a hypothesis. That's science. That's natural science. The study of the physical and natural world. Science. Okay, put that on one side. Then you have descriptions of things which occur always. They are natural laws. So the description of dispersion of gas into space is summarized. The description of it is summarized within the second law of thermodynamics, a natural law, not science. Oh, well, why isn't it science, you ask? Because science would establish the cause of an effect, as opposed to describe an effect that occurs always. The description of an effect is not the establishment of the cause of an effect. So laws describe things that occur always. Science endeavours to elucidate the cause of an effect. Hope that is clear. Dave has said that natural law, in this case the second law of thermodynamics, is the science. No, it is not. Dave doesn't understand science, and when I've attempted to tell him what science is, he shut me down so he doesn't have to listen to it.
What I should do, I think I should get some super chats, but I just wanted to sort of suggest, get my philosophical part of this, the psychological part in.
We would go straight to the measurements.
Because I do think you're right. I might have invented a story about a ball and all these things, but it's not a comforting thought. So my biases have not led me to think that. Yes.
Well, but that's what we've been indoctrinated into believe. Before we can talk, you had mobile over your head and like your crib probably with planets on it, and Sesame Street and all the kids programs. They all have astronauts on.
Chocolate.
What?
You've been talking to him, Chuck.
Sure, it's a good point that they're having a back and forth about, because in essence, Andrew's saying this is scary stuff. You know, the paradigm of heliocentrism is not comforting in the slightest, and Dave's agreeing with him. But I will do it even if Dave doesn't, because it's a good point. It's a tie back into why would they lie, and we discussed how it's a control methodology. Well, fear is one of the best ways of controlling people. So in that respect, this is a good discussion point. Whether or not it gets, like I say, brought to a point like I just did by Dave is irrelevant. I like this point. Yes, that's how it's done. That's why it's done. If you're going to push me to give you an answer on why, and I'm your mate, and we're discussing it in a friendly environment, as opposed to in a debate.
On it, it's all indoctrination. It's to get you to literally disconnect from who you truly are.
No. The lie about Earth being a sphere is to convince you you're on a sphere, flying through a sky vacuum in an orbital motion, because that's what the name of the system is. Heliocentric means sun at centre, with Earth moving around it. That's what the system is. That's what it's trying to convince you. It's not trying to take you away from your inner being, you bloody hippie. It's trying to convince you Earth's a sphere. Now, that's the premise that you need to actually attack and undo by proving it's flat and showing it's flat, how it's measured flat, demonstratably flat, navigably flat. That's what you've got to show to undo this. Not tell him how he'll have a hippy-dippy revelation and suddenly not have to work a 9 to 5. Go ahead, whoever.
Well, on the back end of that, though, they are trying to tell you that you got cousins that are rocks. So there is that.
And
Right?
obviously our cousins are clay, not rocks, right? Adam was made out of clay. There was some clay left over. Those are
My citation, Dr. Michelle Dollar, rocks are cousins.
I
Thanks.
know. I thought of
Okay,
this
let's
one
not get
and I
into the
thought
wrangle
it's
dangle
better.
of this particular set of weeds. If it comes up in their discussion, we'll cover it.
Chats
But
come
in
in
your-
with questions. Let's read them. That would be great.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. I would just finish with but your version of it is very comforting, and I think it's very human to go with that. And even when you're
Yeah, probably sells a lot of apps.
describing,
Comforting?
Yeah, it's a total lie. It's not comforting. Adam went through this a minute ago. We're selling shit. Nobody wants to be a flat earther. You get ridiculed in society. That's what you get. I'm just going to not sugarcoat it for you. I'm sorry. It is flat, though, and I can show you how. What's that? Why would that? I don't care. Well, you want comfort?
The comfort level
it's not what we offer. Sorry. Go to a counsellor.
Yeah, the comfort level of what it is irrelevant.
Yep. Yeah. Don't care how comfortable a flat Earth measurement is to the elevation angle measurement of a star if I'm lost at sea and need to save my own life. I just care about saving my own life and my own skin. At that point, I'm measuring Earth flat. Now, all of the systems that we described in terms of GPS were derived from that Cartesian plane. So in terms of how Earth is measured, my feelings don't come into it.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. Comforting that the elite are out to enslave us and keep us you know, in the spiritual. That's not comforting.
It is, because it implies that if you just got rid of that elite, there'd be some sort of either an afterlife, an all-loving creator, more resources. All we have to do, don't be worried when you're going to sleep about the loneliness of it all and dying alone. Just think we just need to get rid of that elite.
No.
Now, I don't deny the elite are there.
No, he's got a good point. First, probably the only thing I agree with Andrew on in this particular discussion, because he's right. But he's only right in terms of the appeal against Dave's position, in terms of how comforting he has offered it up to be when he's trying to flog his app. And the revelations and world-changing alterations to what would be your life if you accepted this, based on what he says. Well, in that respect, we you know, like I said earlier, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're selling crap here. Nobody wants to be a flat earther, because the society that we currently live in is not on a flat earth. Therefore, you are the pariah of society if you're going to take that stance. Well, that's how I'm going to tell you, when I also make damn sure you know how flat it is. Beyond that, you know, I'm not going to concern myself too much. I'd drive myself nuts. You have to come to terms with it. You have to come to terms with the fact that society won't like you because you've come to terms with it. And then deal with that in however you choose to. You see fit to, like Andrew Gold will probably do, appeal back to the liars on how they've lied to you, or ask them why they lied, or ask them for the truth because you need some replacement. But ultimately, what Andrew's just disseminated to Dave was absolutely correct in response to how he's packaged up Flat Earth. You're right. Does seem very comforting. And you've got to make it seem that way. You've got to put as much positive spin as possible when you're spending a good section of the whole discussion talking about how your app works and how you've got science in it with the experiments tab. You've got to make it seem like it's going to change your world. Get them to part with your $5 or whatever it costs.
Yeah. The elite are there. The problem is when you get rid of them, there's also meaninglessness there. And that's sad. And
so your life is meaningless without the elites, is it, Andrew? Oh, God.
That keeps me up at night.
Yeah, that was sad.
That keeps you up at night? I didn't expect that to be the follow-up. Yeah, I was absolutely bang on. I was so correct when I said what Andrew feared, when he projected it straight out. Terrifying for you.
Yeah, you call it.
I'm going to change my truth. I know you do, but okay, let's go to, and you're welcome to. I welcome all different views on this channel. That is important, plurality of opinion, because otherwise we do have group.
Welcome me.
You would welcome you.
Would he welcome me? Because I'm willing to go.
Drop him a line.
Yeah.
Chats are coming in. Anybody that's new to me, you can find all my information at flatearthdave.com. My app is there. It's only $3. And there's tons of information. It's the stuff that YouTube is.
Oh, well, if that doesn't leave a bitter taste in your mouth after what Andrew just said about how he pitched and packaged this, after that, which is incredibly negative in terms of how Dave's presented it, he took that as a lead in to offer it up with the close. Oh, my God. The only thing David is selling here is the app. That's it. He's going through the motions so he can sell the app. Because if he wasn't, he'd have heard the fact that the way it's been packaged up by criticism from Andrew Gold was to say you're offering people a false hope. He didn't say, no, I'm not. He just said, here's the app. Oh, my God.
Is hiding from you. If you don't want to pay the $3, you can spend 500 hours looking for stuff on YouTube and maybe find 2 hours worth of good content. Okay. But the app is $3 and it does a ton of stuff. It's $11 a year if you want to use the friend finder and message other people and get involved that way. But you don't need to do that. Also, there's the crash course on my website. It's free. Just watch.
Okay, while Dave's plugging his app, I'm going to tell you again, rather than supporting Dave, I'm going to support Andrew Gold. So once more, if you would like to just let Andrew know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, there is a link that will be whizzing by any moment in the live stream chat, so that you can just hopefully get him to respond and return the algorithmic love where we receive none from YouTube by popping my link in his video when he comes back at us and says, nah, the science of cults is a well-known science.
Out his stuff, and then you can tell him it's all complete nonsense and then try and get a refund or something. Right, send in your super chats, because that's all I'm probably going to be able to read, because there's never been so many comments on a thing, and I go to a different column here.
Look, Capricorn now, and then 6 months later, the sun moves out to the Tropic of Capricorn, and it never gets close enough to Alaska or Norway to rise for like a month or so or longer, right? It's never close enough because it's so far away, it never rises. There's your polar night. Here's the problem. You should have the exact opposite 24 hours a day and 24 hours a night in the south, but it doesn't happen. And we've proven it by all of the stations reporting with their cams. And there is 24 hours of no light, because when the sun is on the Tropic of Cancer, it never gets close enough to Antarctica to light it. But when it's out here, Antarctica still gets dark. It should never get dark. It should be 24 hours of sun. But it should be 24
hours. It just seems like such a convoluted thing, Dave, for a creator who's just made a flat Earth for us. Why is he doing all this fiddling about with suns and dials and things?
Well, why would the creator create a speck of dust flying through an infinite universe with air on the outside adjacent to a void, which defies all of the creator's physics? I mean, you want to talk about convoluted?
I don't think a creator did.
Yeah. So you think nothing? This is a cool story, right? Nothing exploded and became everything. Okay, boom. Nothing.
Any comments?
He was so close to the second law of thermodynamics.
He was in the zone. I was like, yes, Dave, go.
Alas, the creator's laws.
Nothing. We'll give you that. It became everything, and then somehow, gas violently fills the space the available space. But for some reason, if you get enough gas in space, it collapses upon each other and becomes a nuclear furnace, leaving a void of no pressure in between. So gas collapses on itself and then becomes this huge gravitational monster that burns. The sun burns like 600 billion tons of energy of fuel like every minute or something ridiculous like that. But for billions of years, it's kept its gravity the same. Okay.
Yeah.
What's
Dave,
going on there?
we keep getting back to the same thing. You don't want to believe things.
Go on. Someone trying to get a word in? No?
I would like to say, though, like, why did he go to that gas is collapsing in on itself? That is not what oh my goodness. That's not what
he was already, because he was already on the nothing exploded and became everything thing. So he was already at the Big Bang, and you know what I'm saying? He's already talking about all that.
Yeah, but he just made a description of gas collapsing. When do you ever see gas collapsing in on itself?
No, he's making fun of their story. That's their story. And he's in his own way making fun of it, right? Saying that's what you believe.
The gravity hasn't changed. He cited the fuel bill for the sun, and then proof was, look, the gravity hasn't changed.
Yeah.
He doesn't get away with
nothing
calling
was
us
in
a
the
disc in space.
Control of a creator. It's difficult to believe that. Right, I've got a next question. Right. Nechama Gluk. What might be and there's another question I'm going to pop in a second, but thank you for the super chat. What might be the motivation to uphold such a large-scale alleged lie? Who would benefit and how? Seems like a lot of work for what gain? And I'll just say there's another similar question.
People like, you know what? I'm getting out of here.
That kind of proved my point, right? He he just said it's kind of ridiculous that the creator would create a flat plane with all the impossibilities of the heliocentric model. Yeah, I believe the creator could create that.
You showed me that on the thing. It actually got me excited because it's such an exciting theory. But that's exactly why I don't want to believe, or I don't think I can believe in it, because I know my own biases too well. And I want to believe that actually Antarctica is just one thing. And if you get beyond it, there are all these.
Yeah, so notice he's picking apart the bullshit narrative that Dave's created for him with no evidence, rather than the non-evidence that Dave didn't present anyway in regards to the undebunkable evidence that he could have presented but didn't. So what are we going to attack? Rightly so. Your claim there's an ice wall in an area self-disclaimed as not being able to be researched by him. but there's an ice wall and we're in a puddle. So what are we going to attack straight off the bat? Yep, the bullshit narrative that he's used to replace the old one. Dave's old globe has been replaced by Dave's new puddle. So that's what's being attacked.
Exactly. Huey was in the 24/7 room in politics server yesterday, so he got a little taste of it. I wish he was here. But the bottom line is, you know what I'm doing? I'm fighting off the straw men that I could argue was given to the ballers from Dave. Now, they're being bigots by attributing that to me when I'm telling them to their face, I didn't present that as an argument. Please stop presenting things to me as an argument from me that wasn't from me. And it's usually all of the things that this guy, Andrew, just put on Dave, but he didn't just put it on Dave. Dave gave it to him for him to refute.
Right.
So
You're making me hungry.
Yeah, stop eating on your mic. It's gross.
These secret extra continents with different resources and a creator. How exciting is that?
I don't know if that's true, but think about this. Imagine we lived a while ago and there's only boats. There's no airplanes, there's no radios, there's no telephones, there's nothing. And the educator said, you know what? I'm just going to draw a circle around here. United States, a little bit of South America, a little bit of Canada.
No way. Is he going to do celestial navigation? Pound says he gets halfway through it and doesn't use it as a proof.
We say, okay, this is what we're going to tell people. We're going to say, hey, there's nothing else. We're going to wrap it around a ball. We're going to say, this is where you live, and there's nothing else. And if you go more than 100 miles off.
Yeah, we all know the globe lie. So what are you going to round this up by giving a rendition of the globe lie?
Sure, you'll be turned around by the military.
Here we go. Just watch Andrew. See if he just starts nodding along with Dave telling him how globy it is.
And you can't explore this white dot down here. Okay, this is all there is. We wouldn't know that the UK existed, or Australia, or Africa. Okay, this would be our entire world. What if? This is a huge what if. Look at this. Watch the screen carefully. What if we lived in the center of this pond? Okay, these are all other ponds, pieces of the plane, planets, if you will. And they did the same thing. They cut it out. They wrapped it around a sphere. I'm not saying this is real. I'm just saying.
Here you are. You're postulating it. So why pepper your statement of what the world could be by saying you're not saying it's what it could be, when that's precisely what you are doing?
It's a nice false dichotomy, though, isn't it?
Yep, globe versus this garbage.
What if? And they said, this is where you live. You're not allowed to explore. You know what this is?
That is sort of what's the truth is.
Boom, told you. So, yeah, that's right, Dave. That's sort of what the truth is. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we are in a sort of suburb of the Milky Way.
This is
yeah. So he basically agrees with you, Dave, when you told him how globy it is, and solar system based it is. He ignored your puddles crap, but maybe if you're lucky, you'll get him onto this false dichotomy that you don't need to be in.
Prison for your mind. A prison for your mind. Okay, you're literally in a prison.
Thank you, Morpheus.
If you don't understand, where we truly live. And again,
but except you can escape it.
I don't know.
Go to the moon.
What, via a second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum that would leave us all without any gas to breathe, Andrew? Yeah, we wouldn't be rinsing and repeating with this had you have understood the second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum that would definitely not be real and facilitate trips to a claimed to be rock in the sky in an orbital motion in a heliocentric religion derived from a whole string of assumptions that we can debunk. No, you definitely wouldn't be telling at the end of, well over an hour that you could go to the moon if you were in front of me. Because if you did, I'd be laughing at you going, what, through a sky vacuum?
You can escape it from the moon.
Or you could go with how are you going to plot your journey using orbital mechanics without a plane of reference?
There's that Lamborghini again. You'll need a flat earth for that. It's that highway that over the top of the windy roads with me picking my way through in my Yugo. and then John goes over the highway I've not noticed in his Lambo. You'll need a flat earth for that.
He does seem like a reasonable enough guy. I'd like to talk to Andrew Gold.
I hope you do.
People over the years have traveled around the world. Plenty of people have traveled around the world.
Okay.
Around the world? That's very ambiguous.
Now, since that brings up, you got to give me a full 60 seconds on this one. Okay.
No, because I've got questions to get to.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Circumnavigation. Pay attention. You ready? Okay. Here's my.
Quickly.
You got to watch. Here's my northern center. My compass. What? You're not watching, Andrew.
I am. No, I'm looking at my lower screen.
So the compass is pointing towards the center. I am pushing this compass west. West is a circle around the center.
Looking at his teleprompter.
Okay. This is circumnavigating the world. I could do the same thing and go east. If I go east, the compass here.
Create a lever magnet in the North Pole.
That's how this place works. So.
I did just ask why a creator would leave a magnet at the North Pole. I mean, good answer, Dave. That's just how it works. I mean, there is a magnetic North Pole, and circumnavigation east or west would just leave you travelling in circles. So around, ambiguous though it was when you gave it as a statement, has now been clarified by Dave in terms of circumnavigation in a circle. That's not in any way inferring anything globe-shaped.
I like it. Right.
Here's the problem.
I've got more questions.
He was ignoring every word you said, Dave, I'm afraid. I mean, you had a good point, to be fair to you.
But he thinks that same concept will work on the globe? And that doesn't question that? How does he think compasses work?
He wasn't listening, but Dave didn't read that when he was like, no, I'm reading super chats. It's like, well, let him get through them and then get back to your point. I mean, if you could have kept this 2-3 sentences, then fine, but I had to buzz my way through at least 30 seconds. He wanted 60.
Hold on. Billions of people have circumnavigated east and west. 0 have gone south, right? If I try to go straight, I'm going south, okay? Billions of people. No one has done it south because the earth is flat. Go. Sorry.
You wouldn't if you were going to circumnavigate the globe, you would not go south and north because it's freezing cold and you'd get into ice and it would be impossible and you'd probably die.
Ever flown.
So then why was that his argument before then?
Yeah.
No one's even flown it. You can't go south. You can't go south. That's what they want you to believe.
Right.
Okay?
Next question. Right. Firstly, thank you to Daniel Gruick for the sticker thing. Thank you to Polly J. Dave.
Showed them how that's false.
About me, I will read it out, I assure you.
Yes.
Let's see. Anson Howard says you can only see how silly heliocentrism is from the outside. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Hold on again. You cut out of my earphones. What did it say? You can only see how silly
heliocentrism is from the outside. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It certainly is.
There you go. It's one down under, presumably in Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. If I drew an arrow that was pointing towards you, the arrow is pointing away from me towards you. Somebody on the side of the room sees an arrow going to the left. Someone on the other side of the room sees an arrow going to the right. That must mean that that my room is a sphere, right? Okay. You've been programmed into believe that it's up to here long. The weather balloons are dead. These.
I can't take this guy no more.
To make, and the plane takes off 30 minutes late. Somehow it lands at the right time because they're like, you know what? We need to make up time. We're going to put this guy in this tailwind and we're going to send him over here. And they sort it out because of these 2,000 weather balloons every single day. So that's who does the weather on flat Earth.
Who puts the 2,000 weather balloons up?
The National Atmospheric Administration. I'm not sure of the organization, but you can look it up. Public knowledge.
Of every country in the world, all colluding.
There's 1,000 spaces equally spread out across the Earth, and they all coordinate the balloon launches at the exact same time, twice every single day.
So where are these balloons?
That's the weather on flat Earth, huh?
Apparently so. Hey,
wow.
John. Morgal.
Hey guys, and sorry, but I just feel so bad saying this, but it's sad because you can tell, at least in my opinion, Dave Weiss is definitely a genuine flat earther. Like he definitely knows the truth. And damn it, it's almost as if he really is doing his best to represent flat earth. And it's sad because from just a logical debate-wise sense, I don't even see how this could have been billed as a debate, but it's just terrible. And again, the only reason I say this is because I personally feel very strongly about the topic of flat Earth. And when I see it just butchered so terribly by somebody that I know and love as a brother, like no homo,
it physically causes me pain and grief. It really does. And so I usually try to steer away from these things, but I guess when you're amongst friends, it's a little easier to digest it, right?
Well, just for the audience's
I like the
benefit,
word
they may
you
not
used,
realize.
butchered.
They may not realize this, but you actually debated alongside Dave Weiss on the Ball Earth Skeptic Roundtable on JLB's channel, right?
Was he on that? He might have been on the last one at the same time as me. There was a lot of people on the one show, so I don't. And it's been a long time, so I don't remember who all was on it. But very possibly he was on there too.
Yeah, right on. But yeah, so I mean, back then, those arguments against heliocentrism weren't particularly refined, and there was a lot of, I don't know how I'd phrase this, maybe anti-skepticism to flat Earth that was also useful back then. To have someone like JLB not neutral, but also not flat Earth positive either, just asking some good questions. But back then, you could forgive the ignorance of people like Dave butchering some of the arguments, because you don't know what you don't know. And while earlier when Neil was saying that, or I think D Rose was saying that, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah, that's fine in the first year, maybe the first 3 years, but sort of 8 years into the subject, not knowing how to just absolutely slam dunk flat Earth proof on some of the things that you've been asked for, it's kind of inexcusable.
Well, and not only that, but of course, sort of the beauty of it is we already know, like maybe it's a half dozen, maybe a dozen things that someone is going to potentially bring up. And usually they'll throw one at you. And if you start making too much sense, they'll throw another one at you. So they do keep you on your toes. But if you can keep them to point, like we know exactly what they're going to say. Like it's either going to be the ship's going over the horizon, or it's going to be the Coriolis effect, or, if I drop a hammer on my foot, it's going to fall. So, we know what they're going to say. And after so many years, like you kind of got to get better. Get good, scrub.
Well, that's it. I mean, the reason we have housekeeping questions, next show will be a Monday start of the week, and I'll go through all of them, right? Those are what you are talking about. We know what questions we're going to be asked, and the housekeeping questions are specifically developed to remind us of what that list of questions is and how they'll be argued, and have the response phrased in such a way that makes the answer impossible, so that within one sentence you can understand how the arguments come to pass and what the argument is, and you can take it to its logical conclusion just by answering the question. So, many of the housekeeping questions have had a considerable length of time put into them to be refined to keep us on our toes, to keep us frosty about these arguments that we know are going to come up over and over and over and over again. So that in the case of the panel, they'll turn around to people who come in and say, well, that's a housekeeping question. Have you got an answer to that? Is there any scientific evidence of gravity? When they start launching into their waffle about it. You're like, well, what's the scientific evidence for it? Because that's the standard that everybody adheres to. Even the pseudoscience fraudsters like Dave and Andrew are going to start talking about their science for this and their science for that. So, okay, give us your scientific evidence of gravity. You watch how effective it is when you boil it down to cause and effect relationships for a phenomenon they haven't got to observe in the first instance. That's how you're supposed to discuss these arguments 8 years into the game, as opposed to what we've got here. Back and forth.
Well, but the thing is, when you say the word science, it just goes miles of legwork automatically, right? So you can just kind of use the term science willy-nilly if you want to, and people just believe you, especially if you're wearing a white coat and have a name tag that says scientist on it, right?
Well, the metaphorical white coat in this instance is a claim that the science of cults is understood by Andrew Gold, and then to affirm that when he says science, in reality, he means, I know what I'm talking about when I talk about the science of cults. It isn't science, though, Andrew. And you don't need to steal the valour of an empirical method to infer that you know what you're talking about. Because the only thing it then leaves you as is a fraudster, when in reality your dissemination of how victim shaming works within the religion of Scientology was 100% accurate. I couldn't fault it. Why tarnish that by claiming it's science? There's no need. But the reason people do it is because, as Morgals correctly identified 30 seconds ago, it's a shortcut. Yeah, I do know what I'm talking about. This is science. Check out how much of the science I know, and before the sentence is over, you'll know that not only is what I'm saying absolutely correct, I know all about it, making me the authority. That's what it does. It's a shortcut to making him the authority. Well, no need.
I want to say something.
You can, but I'll just round out my point. He is an authority on this subject. Only yesterday, Morgul came in and said, I thought I recognised the name. Why? Because he's an authority on Scientology and the cult thereof. I would happily label him with that title. Science of cults, suddenly you're going to get called a fraudster. Do you see the fine line? Just for that shortcut. You don't need to steal the valor when you can demonstrate how knowledgeable you are about the subject. Anybody who's listening to me who's been vouched for you in this regard in terms of that specific piece of information. Coincidentally, I've researched it. So therefore I know you're right. Well, do I need to suddenly ascribe the word scientist to you? No, I don't. You're right anyway. Go on, Neil.
Well, I was just going to say, it seemed to me like he was kind of calling flat earthers a cult too, wasn't he?
You were shouted down with a hold on. It was only short. Just repeat it and then Neil can go. Go ahead, Morgul.
Oh, yeah. I just said, doesn't it seem like...
Like my computer's crashed in the middle of that sentence? It does seem like that.
No. Can you hear me?
Yes, go on one more time and then we'll go to Neil.
Yeah. No, it just seems to me I totally lost my train of thought.
I would blame Neil.
Sorry, go
blame Neil. Just blame.
Yeah, go ahead, Neil. Yeah, I totally my brain fart.
Damn it, Neil.
Damn it, Neil.
He may be a
You
friend
made
of
Morgul
yours.
lose his point, Neil. Now I'm going to make you lose yours.
I'm not going to lose it. Because I've been waiting for 20 freaking minutes.
Go ahead, Neil.
Maybe a friend of yours, but he's no friend to us anymore. He started this war. He drew first blood. Nathan was protecting his Bitcoin. He knows the freaking arguments. There's no excuse for this stupid son of a bitch that I got to listen to for the past 2 days. I'm losing my freaking mind. He's reading from the script to sell his little piece of shit app. I don't think he's a serious flat earther. I can't stand the man.
No swearing.
No swearing. Is that it? You were waiting 25 minutes to say
just
that.
to give this guy, Andrew, benefit of the doubt. I don't think I don't know him as well as you do, but I don't really, it doesn't sound to me from listening to him that he knows the empirical method, right? So couldn't it be he's just using the word science as like the body of knowledge of cults, as opposed to saying that it's actually science?
So, and that's what I was going to say. Did it seem like he was calling flat earthers a cult by his statement? Kind of seems to me like he was like veiled, making a commentary that, yeah, flat earthers are kind of a cult, according to Dave. I don't know.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Primary Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit me up on PayPal and all that good stuff. Once again, let Andrew Gold know that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, in the vain hope that he would publish my link in his video if he were to respond, so that we get algorithmic love where YouTube offer us none. Now, I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
what a day! What a lovely day!